Yeah, you all know this teacher right now, right? So whenever she is publishing a kind of new video, she's gonna send me by email, okay? Because I subscribed her and I opened an account with her. So yesterday it was directly after your class at 4:11. She sent me that email, which is about having 3 English different accents in order to watch it, and if you have any difficulties, or it's easy to be understand from all of us, because generally we are using or we are hearing mostly like American and British accent. Okay, so I opened the video and let's have a little bit of fun with it, because the words are
Well, hey there,
and quite easy. All right, are you ready?
Yes, miss.
Okay,
Yes, miss.
good.
I'm Emma from English, and today I have such a fun lesson for you. We're going to compare English from different parts of the world. South African English, American English, and of course, Australian English.
That teacher, Emma, she's from Australia. And most of the time she's using American and sometimes British accent while she's explaining the lesson. But she's from Australia. So Australian language, Australian accent, let's say, not language, because they already use English, but their accent's a little bit different from America and South Africa. So this is the South Africa, and that one is America. It's quite clear. And this one is Australia. Okay?
And specifically, we'll get to hear the range of vocabulary or the different words that we use for really simple, everyday objects. We all speak English as our native language, but I think you'll be really surprised by just how different some of the words that we use really are. Some similarities, some really different. And I will be joined by 2 amazing, very special guests, both making their YouTube debut, so make sure you give them a little bit of love down in the comments. Both of my guests are language coaches from inside Hey Lady. And you may know Hey Lady is my online community where women meet, make friends, and practice speaking English together.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion for the ladies. For all girls in this group. You girls, you can join this website. It's a kind of community, all right? And then you can discuss and speak with all the American and British and Australian and South African ladies. And you can talk to them in English only, of course. Okay, so here is a kind of community. It's a Hey Lady, like Hey Lady. You can join that community and then you can speak with the native speakers, and they're all lady, by the way. All right, did you understand me? Do you know what does the word community mean? Generally we have group in Viber, in WhatsApp, in Telegram, okay, in any application. But whenever there is community, like community is really secure, like nobody can see your phone number, nobody can see your personal information. Just you're gonna join by your name. All right,
مجتمع يعني أنت.
بالضبط community يعني مجتمع بالضبط. مثلا بالفايبر بالواتساب هاي الأستاذة الإما عندها هيك الكوميونتي بس للليديز يعني. سو فيكي مثلا تسوي جوين للهاي الكوميونتي واحكي ويا مثلا نيتيف سبيكرز او كله ليدي يعني كل النسوان. اوكي. Oh, this is really good for you if you would like, because having a kind of some foreigner friends is really good for you, and they are native speakers, so every day you can chat with them, right? While they are sending even message in the community, you can read it and then you will get many different idea and vocabulary and phrases. So it's a good idea if you join this community for a level directly.
It really is the perfect place for women to build confidence and fluency with their English. It's a space to get speaking practice, the speaking practice that you need to take your conversation skills up to the next level. Now, of course, there is a link to find out more down in the description, and I might pop one up there too. Ask me any questions you have down in the comments, but right now, let's meet these guests.
Hi there, my name is Jasmine. I'm from the United States, more specifically the South.
So the first girl is Jasmine, and Jasmine is from America, okay? So here is the first one, and then we're gonna see the second one, which is she's from South Africa.
Southeastern part of the United States, which we call the South. So I love being a part of the Hey Lady community, and I'm very excited to get started with this pronunciation comparison between the different Englishes.
Hey everyone, I'm Danny. I'm one of the language coaches from Hey Lady. If you haven't heard about it yet, it is an amazing online platform empowering women through English from all over the world. Our coaching team is from all over the world, and I'm from Cape Town in South Africa. So I'm really looking forward to this today. Thanks, Em, for the invite. This is going to be fun.
So in this video, you have a South African, an American, and an Australian to listen to. Keep in mind that each of us represent just one voice, one accent from each of our countries. So let's compare some of the differences and similarities between these different Englishes.
Like you guys, I think you have idea about what are these words mean, like similarity and compare, or similarity and different.
similarity يعني تشابه.
لا يكتشو كان
يعني اختلاف.
لا يكتشو بالضبط. different يعني اختلاف، يعني شجاوازيكو لا يكتشونك هي لبيني كلماتو صوتو أو إباراني كبكاري لا أكسن تجاوز كان. أوكي مثلا خمان ألين لازماني مثلا كمان جي جوروا مثلا لهوليريا لقل سليماني بابلين أما هموي كردية طلب أكسنت من جاوز. أوكي لهجي جواز من هي بابلين هنا مصطلحات من هي كأوان بكاري إما بكاري ناني وبعكسي شو بو أوان. أوكي شتمان زورة وش أوانا حتى هشتي زور بسيط رجعنا كبكاريا فرق من زورة أم يشبه همان شوي كالله similarity and different وتا أوش يعني كليكشون similarity يعني ليكشو أوش يعني لبيني هرسي أكسنت تجاوز كها ليك أشن حتى أقدر وقو صوت ببلام لاني وشكا جاوز نفسي معناه بس جاوز. أوكي يعني وقو spelling جاوز بابل يعني وقو مصطلحي كي جاوز بلام بوها من شد بكاري مثلا بترافيك لايت ألينشي لأمريكا ألينشي لأستراليا ألينشي إلى South Africa ألينشي. Okay, had traffic light تعتادك خما. And then some other phrases and words. But the difference is about something that is never used in America. They usually use something else instead, for example, traffic light, or instead of roundabout, or any other things. All right. So similarity and different is really important to have idea about them. So now I think is these words are clear. Yes.
Okie dokie, so this first one is a traffic light.
Oh, look at the one you started off with. The most confusing word when anybody comes to South Africa is this. Yes, it's a traffic light. But in South Africa, we call it a robot.
Wow, a robot. If I was in South Africa, I would hear that and be completely confused. How cool? Confusing? Interesting.
So the next one is a sidewalk. Okie dokie, so this first one is a traffic light.
Oh, look at the one you started off with. The most confusing word when anybody comes to South Africa is this. Yes, it's a traffic light. But in South Africa, we call it a robot.
Wow, a robot. If I was in...
Yeah, so see, we have traffic light, right? This picture is quite clear what does traffic light mean, isn't it?
Yes, miss.
In America, they call it traffic light. In South Africa, they call it robot. It's quite funny because we use robot generally, even in our language, for something else. It's a kind of special machine. It's like a human being. Like nowadays, like in China, there are many modern hotels that there is a robot in the reception. They are working in there. Okay, and they can do whatever you want. They will reply all your questions. Okay, they will book the room, they will give you the key, they will give you the card. They are responsible to do the check-in and check-out in a hotel for you. Okay, and they are robots. So in Australia, they will call it same thing. It's a traffic light, same word. So this is a similarity, but this is a different, isn't it? Have you ever heard about robot that can be used instead of traffic light in other countries? Or this is your first time that you got a robot as a traffic light, which can be used in, especially in South Africa?
This is first time. I know that.
And it's really funny, isn't it? Because
Yes.
if you go to South Africa one day and if you heard that word, you will be shocked because you're not expecting people are calling traffic light like robot. but now you have idea and it's really nice.
In South Africa, I would hear that and be completely confused. How cool? Confusing? Interesting.
So the next one is a sidewalk, the part where pedestrians walk.
You know the word pedestrian? What does that mean, pedestrian?
رصيف المشي.
لا pedestrian sidewalk يعني رصيف المشي. This is a sidewalk but pedestrian يعني مثلا اما بكردي كسي بيادة كساني تبى بيادة هاتو شوكن يعني أرون بوشوين عن زاتر يعني مثلا بس رجع ديك أروي أمشوين خلق بيا أرو على أواني كسي بيادة. Oh my god. Okay, this is a pedestrian. In Arabic, what do you call this, Ms. Huda? Pedestrian?
مقعد.
نعم مثلا تو كسي pedestrian ببياسة بس شو أفتكرت شو أوكي. أبو رشاد مشات دي مشات مشات بالتاء مشات تمام هلا واضح شنو معنى pedestrian يعني مشات بالعربي اما بكرديكم مالين بياده كسيكي بياده كان كساني بياده وين يا جماعه I heard many times like the word piada as a pedestrian. Okay.
Which makes sense actually. It's the side where you walk.
In South Africa, we call this a pavement. What's it in Australia?
That's interesting. Pavement, I think, is what it's referred to as in the UK as well. I think as we go through this video, we'll pick up that there's a connection between British English and Australian English and British English and South African English. But interestingly, there are different similarities. In Australia, we say footpath. And if you compare all of them, they're all quite logical. American.
Yeah. So here we have that picture. And I think the picture is quite clear. This is a sidewalk. Sidewalk. That L is silent, okay? It's not sidewalk, it's a sidewalk. In America, they call it sidewalk. In South Africa, they call it pavement. This is a pavement, all right? What about Australia? It's a footpath. Footpath, all right? These kind of places can be available inside the park, next to the main roads, in every part in the city, isn't it? Which is a sidewalk or pavement or footpath. So which one is you like mostly using them? Which one is your favorite word to be used for that picture? What do you think?
Sidewalk. Sidewalk.
So you use
It's
sidewalk
more
before?
comfortable.
Yeah, actually. Even footpath, I heard like generally in Britain and Australia, they're always using footpath rather than sidewalk. Okay, but pavement, I heard also pavement, but I haven't used that word. Okay, mostly I use this footpath or sidewalk. Both are correct, but mostly sidewalk. Yeah, as you said, it's really comfortable. What about the others? Who would like to read these words for us? Is the pronunciation quite clear for you? Do you have any difficulties with these words?
Yes, it's clear.
It's clear. Yes, Lana, could you please read it again for me? All these three words.
Yes, sidewalk, pavement, footpath.
Okay, that's good.
American sidewalk, Australian footpath, and South African pavement. Pavement for us is probably more the surface, the material, rather than the space or the place where you walk beside the road.
This is a roundabout. They are super uncommon where I'm from. One got installed in my hometown maybe a few years ago, and you can just see people coming up on it and they're kind of like, "Ooh."
Okay, so this one over here we call a traffic circle. I know that we get laughed at because it's a circle in the middle of an intersection, so we call it a circle. You go around the traffic circle or over the traffic circle.
We call it a roundabout in Australia. They're very common in Australia.
Yeah, so before moving to those verbs that can be used around the traffic, around the roundabout or traffic circle, let us discuss these three words. I think you have idea about the picture. The picture is quite clear, roundabout. What do you call it in Arabic? Roundabout or traffic circle?
دائرة يعني هاي دائرة
دوار.
المرور.
دائرة. دوار. Okay. In Kurdish we say fulka. Isn't it, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
يعني شوارياني جبل.
شوارياني جبل بەڵام عادەتەن هەر فولکە زیاتر بەکارێنی مەسەڵەن فولکەی فلان شوێن اوكي یا چونکە عادەتەن بۆ شکڵە سێرکڵەیە چونکە چوارریان yeah it can be used
بهر شوار لا جادية.
ناوەڕاستە فولکەی گوتیا بزە ڕاستە و بیرم لە چوارانەکەی سەرچتان ڕێگرتەوە کە شتێکی وەها واضح نییە بەس مەسەڵەن شوێنی ترمان زۆر مەسەڵەن لای جامی ئاهەمانە لە زۆر شوێنی تر ئاهەمانە کە roundabout یان با بڵین فولکەکەی. Okay. So in America they call it roundabout. In Australia and Britain it's same word as roundabout. So this is a similarity. But this one is different. It's a traffic circle. دي قد بان خوي شكلي سيركلي هي شيبي سيركل واتا مدورة ونيا يعني بازنية خوي سيركل يعني بازنية يعني شتيكي مدور. So they call it as its shape يعني لسه referry shape كي أو نعنا traffic circle. كلمة زور معقولة. And it makes sense also, but it's quite different between America and the UK and also Australia. Okay, now she is going, I mean, Emma, she is going to explain these words that generally can be used once you say go over the roundabout or go through roundabout or something else maybe. I mean, some other words, but generally we say go through roundabout or go over roundabout. يعني بدوري يعني بلاي في الكاكابر يعني بسر في الكاكابر مع تنوالين أو جوالين كثروا لراب معنا إلى سريع عادة يعني أوفا يعني هر تقريبا لنزيك بكاري يعني بدوريا يعني بسريع أو جت قالين أوفا. Okay.
We have lots of roundabouts, so we're very comfortable going over them. Danny was talking about the prepositions that are used together with the noun, and I think when she said traffic circle, she said we go around the circle or over the circle. And it sounds a little odd to me to say around the roundabout.
Yeah, see, because in South Africa, they are calling this picture the traffic circle, so they can use go around traffic circle. But if the word is a roundabout, it's a little bit difficult to say go around roundabout. Like around roundabout is a little bit difficult and confusing, isn't it? So it's better to say go through or go over roundabout. If you're like using British or American or Australian accent, but in Africa, they can say go around traffic light or traffic circle, sorry, or go over traffic circle. You know what I mean? So these two verbs can be used in Africa because their traffic circle is not like roundabout. It's different, but using around with the word roundabout is a little bit confusing and difficult. So they have alternative, okay, for the verbs.
We wouldn't say that. Even though that makes the most sense, we would say through or over the roundabout. And interestingly, when Jasmine was through or over,
see, in Britain and also Australian, they say, even in America is the same because the word is roundabout. They say go through roundabout or go over roundabout. Which one do you prefer to be used with the roundabout? Which one is easier for you, over or through?
Through.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends on like people's mood. Some people they will prefer go through roundabout. Some of those people they would like to say go over roundabout. And it can be used in these three countries: America, Australia, and Britain. But in South Africa, no, it's difficult. And they are not going to use go through traffic light or go through a traffic circle. They say go around traffic circle or go over traffic circle. All right?
the roundabout. And interestingly, when Jasmine was talking about approaching the roundabout, she was saying people come up on the roundabout. And
yeah, also in America, they mostly say people come up on the roundabout. You know what does that mean? Come up on? It has same meaning like through or over. Okay? Come up on the roundabout.
And that sounds strange to me. We would always say come up to the roundabout. So even the way that we use prepositions around these different nouns is a little different.
So the thing that you touch at the center of the steering wheel is called your horn. So I guess you say you blow your horn? That can't be right. You touch the horn? Yeah, I guess you touch the horn. Usually we might say someone is leaning on the horn, which means they use it too much. The sound that we use is the beep beep.
Oh, boop boop, that's a hooter.
Danny's saying boop boop. Jasmine's saying beep beep. And again, the words that we're using with these nouns are a little different. So Jasmine was saying leaning on the horn means that someone is like using it too much. We use the noun horn here in Australia too, but we use honk, which is a really strange verb.
Yeah, see guys, look at that picture. The picture is quite clear. Even we say horn, isn't it? Emalin hori. Hori. Emalin bakurdin hori nisara. What about Arabic one? Horn. So that you got it the English one, like you're using the English one. In America they say بالضبط.
نحن بصيغ زمور السيارة.
زبور مو؟
زمور.
زمور السيارة بالسوري يعني. Okay. So in America they call it horn. In Australia and UK is the same word. They call it horn. But in South Africa they call it hooter. Okay? It's a hooter. The same thing but different words. In America, they said he's leaning on the horn. Like whenever someone is like using the horn a lot of like most of the time or too much, they said he's leaning on the horn. He's leaning. Okay. هم تقريبا مش مولي خمان زورا قال رزورا حس هورن لا كتسخار زهورنا كلاينا بمحسبه إنذار بكارين. Okay. لرغم بس دي أوي على مثلا فلانكس قال هي مثلا أوكوريكا فلانكور مثلا هورن زور بكاري هنا. Okay, he is leaning on the horn. بس دي أويكا زور horn بكاري. لرا leaning لكل horn بكاري. قبل لكل horn لأنا نتواني بلاي touching. هلا بداية شاوتي. It is a little bit difficult to say he is using the horn or he's touching on the horn. No, it's not very common. We say he's leaning or she's leaning on the horn. Okay, in Australia and UK, they say they are not using that verb leaning. They say honking, like he's honking the horn. He's honking the horn. يعني مثل كسرة horn زور بكاره هنا. All right, is that clear? خانم?
Yes, Mrs.
Is that clear? Okay, so I think you are using the same thing in Arabic also. انتوا شنو تستخدموا يعني شنو تسمون هاي الشخص لما he is leaning on the horn too much or he's honking the horn.
ما بعرف يزمر كتير.
بالضبط.
عم يزمر يعني.
يزمر.
تمام.
Honk the horn.
So the liquid that you put in your car is called gas. I've seen a video where someone was commenting that it's so silly that Americans call it gas because it's a liquid. We're well aware that it is a liquid, but it is short for gasoline.
So we fill up our cars in South Africa with petrol. We say petrol and we go to the petrol station.
Same here, Danny. In Australia, we fill up our cars with petrol. And yes, we call it a petrol station or a service station. And if any of you have watched any of my videos about Australian slang, you'll know that it is more common to use a short version of service station. Can you remember? Servo.
Yeah, it's a servo. See, about gas or gasoline, generally it's used in America. And also, I think here people are using like gasoline or petrol station or even the word petrol, isn't it? I need petrol. Or أبي هني petrol كرم or هني gas كرم مسعرة مثلا هني gas كرم, isn't it? What do you call it in Arabic?
بنزين. بنزين أو مازوت.
So they say gas or gasoline for the place. In Britain or in Australia, they call it petrol, okay? And the place, they call it petrol station or service station, okay? Did you get these two words? Even here inside Suleimani, whenever there is a petrol station, they word petrol station or maybe sometimes petrol service, but generally they use petrol station, isn't it? Or oil, even I saw some, they wrote oil station, isn't it? يعني بنزين خانة كي خومن يا ألين بنزين خانة بابلين أن بلجاتي بابلين بنزين خانة كي خومن يعني نسيانا petrol station يعني نسيانا oil station هاد ما بس من شو أنا كي يعني أكيد ناخوي بنزين بتجاه هلا petrol يعني gas يعني gasoline أوكي أنجا مصطلح هيك اللي بتاعنا زور زور بكاري لا هلا أكسنتي في أستراليا وبريطانيا شلجاتي oil blends service station they say servo يعني بنزين خانة. For example, they say, I'm searching for a really close servo. I need a really close service station or petrol station or oil station. Okay? Is that clear?
ميس هون عم يحكوا عن الغاز بالضبط ولا عن المحل يعني عن بنزينخانة مثلا؟
على الغاز وعلى المحل تبعهم مثلا بالبريطانيا وبالاستراليا they said petrol station or gas station or oil station or service station. Okay, the most common one is service station or petrol station. And there is a kind of shortened form or abbreviation for petrols or for service station, which is they call it servo, this word. Okay, يعني هاي المصطلح تبع السيرفيس ستيشن يعني بنزين خانة من المكان تبع البترول. Okay?
That's right.
Okay.
We go to the servo to fill up with petrol, but
See, we need a servo to fill up the petrol, to fill up. Did you hear that?
Yes, لتعبئة البنزين.
بالضبط. بلا. عشان بنزين تريم بنزين خانة بيسا بوي إمالن بوي بنزين كين سعرك يعني مصلحة كمان تقولوا دري اشتري لشاو fill up يعني fill up زور بسيطة دو شيء. So in English they say I need a kind of very close servo to fill up my car.
ماما صام
Yes.
بس بزحمة معظم سعر كان يعني زيادة البقاس إيشك أبويا للغاز ستيشن وانيا
بنفس الشيء اوكي راستا اول شيء حتى ليرش كمان بس يعني وكو مصلحه امي كبكاري هنا بو بنزين خانه يعني بنزين او ان الين غاز بس لا
ليه زيادة لين اويل ستيشن
بالضبط الين اويل حتى بترول ستيشن يش بكار هاتو ولا زوري شو مكان هنا بنزين خانه سيتي اويل ستيشن هنا شو سيتي بترول ستيشن
واي راسي
اما كلمه سيرفيس ستيشن بكاري يعني بو مكان التصليح يعني مثلا بو شويني فيتر واوانه تقتنا أو شو يعني ك سيرفيسي سعره أكن بابلين ك حنا خلال أوانة شاك أكن بابلين بيجك أو يكبنزين خانة به سيرفيس ستيشن بكاره يعني شويني أو what do we call إما هالين فيتر يعني شويني خدمة بزاري أوتومبيل I don't know what we call these words in Kurdish but in English they say like even you can say service station. But in Britain and Australia, they call it as a banzinkhan. Servo. You can say servo also, okay?
also hear fuel being.
If you're ever frustrated and embarrassed because you forget English words when you speak, I'm Drew Badger, the English Fluency Guide.
Being used as well, like a fuel station. I need to get some.
Yeah, even we have fuel station. I think there is a kind of really fuel station next to, I think it's Chwartra. Yeah, it is about they wrote fuel station. Like instead using petrol station or service station or gasoline, or they wrote fuel station or fuel. هر معناه بنزين يعني بنزين خانة كيك، أوكي؟ خوي fuel يعني 180 عادة، إما خمان وعلم. يعني إذا جاتي مصطلح فيل ألين 180 إذا 180 كهرشتكا خلوزة غازلينا بنزينة نوتا هرلين فيل alright وقود تمام مثل فيل أوكي
fuel.
What we put on our lips to make them moisturized, not for beauty, not to give them color, but to moisturize them. I would say we either call them lip balm. Balm, it's kind of a hard word to say, but I think this is also kind of a case where people use the brand name, a very popular brand name, to refer to everything. So people might say chapstick, which is a brand name, to refer to every kind of lip balm, regardless of if it's a chapstick brand or not.
This is lip ice, and I think we also refer to it these days as lip balm. I know it's also lip gloss, although lip gloss is more the shiny one.
Lip ice is new to me, Danny. I've never heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense. Lip ice. Like it soothes, it cools your lips. Jasmine was talking about chapstick as being a brand name, and that often happens where maybe the noun or even the verb that we use is synonymous with a brand name. We had chapsticks in Australia as well, but it never really became you would only refer to a chapstick as chapstick, and you would say lip balm. The other thing I picked up there was Jasmine's pronunciation of balm. We would say balm with a silent L. So a lot like almond, we say almond and balm. And I think in some American accents that L sound is pronounced. It's a little trickier, but
yeah, so we all have idea about this one, especially the girls, because it's the very most common thing that we generally use in them every day, especially in winter or in autumn, especially in this season, right? So in America, they call it lip balm, like that L, they are pronouncing them. I mean, you have to pronounce the balm, I mean the L in a balm, or you can say chapstick. But generally, the most common one is they use lip balm. But chapstick is a word that can be referred or used for all the kinds and brands of lip balms. You know what I mean?
Yes, miss. يعني ليب بالم يا هي مشان معالجة التشقق، بس chapstick هي الحمراء اللي بتعطي اللون للشفايف.
مثلا بالضبط،
أيوة،
يعني فيك تستخدمي تشابستيك لكل الانواع، يعني كل شركات وكل الالوان وكل شركات وانواع الليب بالم، يعني فيك تستخدمي هدول الاثنين. بس بشكل عام اذا هيك شكلها مثل اللماع وشيء مغذي، هنا تستخدمون للب ومثل المرطب بالضبط، يعني مويسترايز. هاي المشكله، مويسترايز للشفايف. مويسترايز يعني مرطب، اوكي، يعني مويسترايزر.
ما هو صبي شي يعني ليبستيك؟
لبستيك شيبيلين با اما لبستيك بكارين عادة بو سوراو بلام خوي تشوبستيك ذات البكاري لأستا بلام أوجه كلمة لكن نفسي معنى هي بس أواني كزور زور كمنا لهمو أمريكا على lip balm and chopstick. Okay. Cheaterman here, Africa they call it like in Africa they call it lip ice, which is really new. Even it's a new word for me. I haven't heard only lip ice before. The others I heard, and even I generally use lip balm or chopstick or lip gloss or even gloss, which is makes sense. Which is referred for a lip only, which is we when we call gloss, it's a like lip gloss. We mean lip gloss, but lip ice is a little bit. It's really like new for me as well, maybe for you too. So in South Africa they call it lip ice or lip gloss, okay, for this. In Australia and in Britain they say the same word, lip balm, but in Britain the L is silent, but in America it's not silent. See, this is the phonetic word. There is a long A in balm. Okay, we have long A. This is the correct sound, which is long A, balm. But in America, the only difference between America and Britain and also Australia is that in America, the L should be pronounced, is not silent, but in Britain and Australia, the L is silent. They say balm, almond. Okay, بس بايم حتى أول شيء وتي مثلا almond لأمريكا لين almond يعني كأخواننا almond يعني بايم مالن بايم يعني شترمان هي بكارين بس كله يا بايم يعني بادم هرب كيرو بكاريني. In Britain they say balm يعني يلا كناخينه حتى لا استرالياش. Okay, almond ايش يلا كهر سايلنت. درسك إخواني لسه سايلنت كان بعام لأي هتازت لها مؤوشانة كزور ضرورة كتأكيد بلوي كسايلنت ضروري وشكانيج لأمريكان ناكسنتا هرواية أو بيتهر أبي بسايلنتي بخيانة لبري أو تلفظ راستك فلام كلماتش هي زور مشترك نية لبيني هردو أكسنتي بريطانيا يعني أستراليا وأمريكا. لأمريكا أخوان ريتو مثلا أو بيتا برونامس فين لا أما لا UK يعني لأستراليا أبيت سايلنت غلط أكربو شيء بخير. Okay. So now, is it clear what is a lip balm or chapstick, lip ice or lip gloss? or lip balm, which is L should be silent. So now you are free. You can say balm to like with pronouncing L, or without pronouncing L. You can say balm without pronouncing the L. All right?
It's definitely heard. It's not silent.
All right, so this one is the cause of much frustration in the United States because what we call these assorted beverages is it varies depending on what region you are from in the United States. And certain regions feel very strongly that their region is the only way that you should refer to them. So for me personally, I would call all of these things sodas. So a soda is something sweet, it's fizzy, and it comes in a can or a bottle. It can have multiple flavors like Coke or Sprite or orange soda or grape soda, or in general, they're all called sodas. In the Midwest, they call these things pop. So POP, soda pop, or just pop. I guess if you are going out, you might even hear these things called fountain drinks. You know, the kind of machine that gives you the drink. It's sometimes called a fountain. So these are fountain drinks. So you might see that on a menu. You probably wouldn't hear someone say it. My vote is to say that soda is the most common for the United States.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea that there was such an array of different words for these drinks. They're so common, and yet they're referred to so differently. I wonder what Danny's got to say about it.
These are fizzy drinks in South Africa. Fizzy drinks are Coke and Fanta and Sprite, and the plain water with bubbles is just soda, soda water. Soda is plain water with bubbles and all the different flavors of fizzy drinks.
That is exactly the same as Australia, Danny. We call all of the flavored drinks with bubbles, we call them fizzy drinks, and soda definitely refers to water with bubbles in it, carbonated water.
This is a barbecue. So
and all the different flavors of fizzy drinks.
That is exactly the same as Australia, Danny. We call all of the flavored drinks with bubbles, we call them fizzy drinks, and soda definitely refers to water with bubbles in it, carbonated water.
This is
water with bubbles in it.
All right, so this is very common, is our favorite, isn't it? Like in America, they call it soda for all the kinds of drinks, like cola, Pepsi, soda alone, or 7-Up. I don't know how many kind of types of fizzy drinks they've got. They call it soda, but in other part of America, okay, they call it pop. So both are correct. You may hear both of them. And sometimes they call it fountain drinks. Fountain drinks. We never use the fountain drinks here, and maybe also in in UK or Australia, even in Africa. But generally, it can be used in America only. Fountain drinks. Also, it can be used for the cars. They call it fountain car. It means those cars, they are responsible to bring such a kind of drinks for the markets, for the shop, to the restaurants. Okay, is it clear what I mean? Did you understand me?
Yes, clear.
Yeah, say مالي خمالي ألين برات لجاتي fountain car يعني fountain وفاونتن بوشتك تيجي بكاري مثلا بوش شلالي كي what do we call this fountain أو يعني شلالي أو يعني تافكي أو بابلين حتى أجر فيك يشبه لين fountain أوكي يعني فيك fountain مثلا أو يعني كل بارك وباخوش تكانا بتابعيني دس كده بدوسكرا so أمان لجاتي أو بوسعري drink كان بكاري إنه تأو براداني كresponsible لو توزيعاتي drink كان بسرها مش أنا كان لأمريكا they call it fountain drinks and fountain car بلام بهمونو أكاني drink كان ألين soda يعني pop اوكي حتى بو صوداي تريش كخوما هاد بيلين صودا او نوع او مثلا كبتشن فلافري كي جاوزا وتا بتشن تامي كي جاوزا مثلا هي صوداي سادة صوداي ليمويا صوداي تريا صوداي أبلا اوكي او نهار الين soda بو همو kinds of drink again لا Africa they call it fizzy drinks and we mostly use and even the kind of person that I'm always calling these fizzy drinks أتا مشروبات غازية ونيا ايوه قالت انواع لا مشروبات غازية اما الين اما ناي بيشتغل زور بكاري نالين خوار اتوانين بلين خوار نو غازية كان يعني مثلا لما نيو رستورانت كان نسرا هجور خوار نو في سارد ايوه يعني مثلا گرمان هي سردمان هي سرد كان عادة
يعني
مش
الان
كل امانه
سردی
جدا يعني الان هجور سرديك بله هجور سرديك سرد مني جواز اما بس من ايس كريم بس كأبي بسردي اما بس من همون اكاني امان هلا لين سردي okay but in Africa they call it fizzy drinks same word can be used in Britain and also in Australia it's a still same word it's a fizzy drinks but only in America is a little bit different it's a pop or maybe soda. Have you heard about this word pop that can be used for these kinds of fizzy drinks before, or this is your first time?
No, it is the first time.
Even you haven't heard in a movie?
No.
But soda is.
I just heard soda.
Soda, even in American movie.
Yes.
What about fizzy drinks? Have you heard fizzy drinks in some videos on YouTube, some movies?
No, never.
No. So what did you
First
hear
time.
instead of fizzy drinks, Khanum? You haven't heard fizzy drinks even before?
In movies?
Yeah?
No, I heard coca مثلا أو soda. But fizzy drinks that's the first time.
Yeah, but generally we call all these types of drinks like fizzy. They're fizzy because there is a little bit gas and bubble in it. That's why they call it fizzy. Good.
Carbonated water.
This is a barbecue. So barbecue can be the noun, as in we're having a barbecue, which might mean we're having a party where we will grill foods on the barbecue, and it's also a verb. So we barbecued last night, but that's what we call it.
This is the most South African thing and word. It's called a braai. It's not a barbecue. It's very different. Braai is to cook over an open flame, but it's not just the fire to cook. The fire is a whole day event. It's a whole ritual.
Of course, in Australia, we'd like to rival that and say barbecue is definitely our national dish. We certainly call it barbecue, but again, Australian slang usually sees us shorten these words, and we use barbecue so often, we are always saying Barbie. We can use that to talk about the event, like Jasmine was saying, come around to my house for a Barbie, or I'm just going to put some sausages on the Barbie.
And these.
Or I'm just going to put some sausages on the Barbie.
All right, so let's discuss about that one. And nowadays it's very common here in our country, isn't it? Barbecue or Barbie. What do we call it here, or even in Arabic?
شواية.
حفلة شواء. حفلة شواء.
لا نقول شواية.
ايش شواية ولا كل الانواع يعني مشاويات مو؟
مشاوي.
مشاوي باش. اما خمان الين برجاو يعني مثلا مريش بكوشت ب I don't know steak بماسي ب همين الين برجاو يعني مسخوار ني برجاو باب اما الين barbecue in America they call it barbecue. Okay, it can be used as a noun. Actually, the word is a noun, but also it can be used as a verb. So it's both. It can be noun, it can be verb. Because if you heard from the beginning, like Jasmine said, we barbecued last night. Okay, it means they've got that mel. We barbecued, so she put d like ed to that verb, which is she changed it for the past. So the word barbecue is a noun, at the same time can be used as a verb. In South Africa, they call it braai, isn't it? It's really different. And this is my first time that I heard that word instead of barbecue, because mostly I heard barbecue or Barbie from movies, like from videos, I don't know, some kind of a program that is related about preparing food or making food. So I heard only barbecue or Barbie. What about you? Which one is the most common word here?
Barbie, we heard Barbie, barbecue.
Barbecue, yes. Barbecue. Good. So is it clear now what is a barbecue, isn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
clear.
And these are fries.
Oh, hot chips. Not French fries. In South Africa, we call them hot chips.
In Australia too. Hot chips in Australia.
These little vegetables are called zucchini.
Put some sausages on the barbie.
And these
Not French fries. In South Africa, we call them hot chips.
In Australia too. Hot chips in Australia.
Yeah, this is very common right here. Marlin finger, isn't it? Generally,
Yes,
we say
finger.
finger. Yeah, it's also it's a fries. Yeah, in America they call it fries, and South Africa and also Britain and Australia they call it hot chips. All right, it's a hot chips. For chips, we are like inside, like let's say in Iraq we call chips for something else. Isn't it? But they use it for this as a hot chips. But in America, it's a fries. Okay.
these little vegetables are called zucchini.
In South Africa, we call this vegetable baby marrow, but it's also known as a courgette.
We do not call them courgettes.
In Australia, we are most familiar with zucchini. And I think these days more and more people are familiar with courgette. I'd say maybe 10, 20 years ago, not many Australians would really know what a courgette is. I think that's changing. And I think these days more and more people are familiar with courgette. I'd say maybe 10, 20 years ago, not many Australians would really know what a courgette is. I think that's changing now.
We call them hot chips.
Are called zucchini.
In South Africa, we call this vegetable baby marrow, but it's also known as a courgette.
We do not call them courgettes.
In Australia, we are most familiar with zucchini. And I think these days more and more people are familiar with courgette. I'd say maybe 10, 20 years ago, not many Australians would really know what a courgette is. I think that's changing now.
So first off,
Okay, so let's go back to that one. What do you call this one in Arabic? Zucchini.
خيار. خيار.
كوسة
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 هي كوسة مبينة.
هي كوسة ولا خيار؟
لا هي كوسة. Zucchini.
كوسة. أوكي.
يعني شجر كوسة
Like cucumber, it's the خيار.
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, cucumber خيار.
Yeah,
صح.
zucchini, it's yes,
بالعراقي نسميه شجر.
شجر.
ايه
أما شجر أو حج أحمد.
So I think the English one and maybe the Syrian and the Arabic one is quite easier rather than the Kurdish one. In Kurdish we say kulaka.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't it? We say kulaka.
Yeah.
So in America they call it zucchini, but in Africa it's a baby marrow or curtage. But in America they will never call it curtage. It's for something else. But baby marrow or curtage is very common in Africa for this kind of vegetable. And also same thing in Britain and Australia they call it zucchini. Right? Nowadays there is another word. It's a zucchini with a j sound. Even in the UK, also in Australia, which is a kind of updated word because before they haven't heard or maybe they have an idea about such a kind of different sound, but because now sound j is available and maybe they got it from French words, okay, or Latin maybe. So that's why they call it zucchini or zucchini. So now it's clear what is a zucchini, right?
Also we can call it squash.
Squash. Maybe in some kind of different like places they call it squash, but generally the most common one is this one. But the squash one is especially for the red one, like it's a kind of, it has a big size.
يعني كلكي رش كان اللي يقول
كلكي رش جورا كان بالضبط يعني سو خويا مالين سو بتقنن شكلكي برتقالي باوي هي ونيا
بەڵێ ئەو پێلێن سکواش
یا ئەوە سکواشە بەڵێ یعنی ئەوەی خۆی ڕفێرە بووە چکە ئەو چەر تایپێکی کوولەکەیە وەکو تایپێکی مین ئەتوانێ بڵێ سکواش بەس جیاکراوە تۆ لە بەرەوەی نەوەیەکی جیاوازە و حەجمی جیاوازترە بەوە ئەڵێن سکواش اوكي ئەمە هەڵێن زوکینی اوكي
سكواش بالعربي هي اليقطين هاي الدائرية لونها برتقالي
بالضبط ها هي
يقطين بنسميها
ماڵین کوولەکەی سوور یا نانی بەلەونەکە جیامان کردوتر اوكي وەنێ جەمالی هێناڵین کوولەکەی سوور بۆ سکواش باش
Know what a courgette is? I think that's changing now.
So first off, in America, we would call this specific leafy green arugula. That's the name for it.
That is rocket.
Yeah, that's rocket. This vegetable is peppery salad leaf. I'm going to jump in. Vegetable is that pepper.
Okay, what do we call arugula or rocket here in like in Kurdish maybe or in Arabic? You call this?
spinach.
معلين سبانخ بالضبط. Yeah.
جرجير ما
جرجير
جرجير يا سبانخ.
يس
أو spinach.
لا جرجير
جرجير
Can you repeat the picture, miss? I
Yeah,
didn't see.
okay, let me just go back to the first part. Here is the picture.
It's jarjir. Yes.
ربما صارنا سكيش ليه؟
سبانغ أكبر من أوراق أكبر. هي جرجير.
أو سبانخ أيضا سبانخ بالإنجليزي.
تشبه الجرجير أكثر؟
إيه هي جرجير.
باشا اما وايلد مان هي نوعك هي وايلد بي الين ترخون اما خوان بكورتي ترخوني بي الين واني يا جماعه زور صوزيك بون وتامشي زور خوش او وايلد اركول باشا وايلد بي الين يعني مثل اركول كيوي بوي او ناو ترى وايلد معناه كيوي يعني خورس جيب بابلين اگر وكو لصوزواتها بكاري بين بلان صوزي مثل خورس وايلد ارجولا but salad ارجولا او ابيبا جرجيرك كجاء كيتو اوكي It's like generally is used inside the salad, isn't it? With the onion and some kind of different sauces. Yeah, good. What about what was that word which is can be used for spinach akihoman? I think it's not a mash. It's
spinach.
Also spinach, and there is something else they call it. No, mash. It's na'na or na'na. I just mixed this. Yeah. So that is what's that part again?
Arugula. That's the name for it.
That is rocket.
Yeah, that's rocket. This vegetable is that peppery salad leaf. I'm going to jump this.
It's quite funny in America, I mean in South Africa, also Britain and Australia, it's a rocket because generally rocket can be used for a kind of, you know, as a kind of space station. We call it mushak. I'm a rocket alone mushak, isn't it? Yeah, sarukh. I think it's in Arabic, you call it sarukh, isn't it? So this is a rocket. But in South Africa, they call it for this kind of arugula as a kind of this vegetable. Right?
Vegetable is that peppery salad leaf. I'm going to jump in early here and say these are biscuits.
Chocolate chip cookies. They are not biscuits. A biscuit is a delicious breakfast treat. They're usually savory, they're fluffy, you cut them open, you can put something like jam in them, you might have like a sandwich, like a biscuit sandwich, so you might have sausage and egg or bacon in your biscuit. But we're not talking about biscuits, Here we have cookies. They are sweet. There are lots of different kinds of them.
That is so interesting, Jasmine. What you just described to me, I'm picturing in my head what we would call an English muffin. It's savory. We usually have it at breakfast, maybe with eggs. Let's hear what Danny has to say about these biscuits.
Okay, so these are chocolate chip cookies, but we don't actually say cookies. We say biscuits in South Africa. For some reason, chocolate chip cookies is just the name of a chocolate chip cookie. But for all other flavors, it's a biscuit.
That's good. So what about us? What do we call this one right here? Even we are not, even as Iraqi people, we are not calling this one biscuits, because biscuit is different in our country, isn't it?
Yes.
Even we are calling it cookie. We call even in Kurdish, maybe same in Arabic, you call it cookies, because this kind of like bakery is not available in our culture. It's related to another country. So we've got the names directly from them. We didn't change the name for it. We call it cookies, isn't it? Yes. But this is a like it has a different, like this shape. It's a cookies in America. They call it cookies, and actually here inside Iraq we call it cookies, and it's quite different from biscuits. But in Africa they call it biscuits. This one, and also in Britain and Australia they call it biscuits as well. Okay, it's really delicious, especially this type. Once they put chocolate on it, I don't know if you are a kind of like big fan of cookies, because nowadays there are many bakeries inside Suleiman, especially it will be a kind of reclam even for them, like City Star Bakery. I don't know if you have idea about them. They are really common with their cookies, that they have the best cookies inside Silly. Maybe some other parts they have same, but I think they are my favorite place and they are the best. It has different flavors. Some like there are some of them they put some kind of fruits, but the most common one is chocolate, and there is a berry, and there is a fig jam cookies, and I also they put a kind of white cream. It's like a vanilla cookie. Nowadays they have such a kind of cookies with a different flavor. All right. So is it your first time that you just got this idea about, is it cookies generally, but in Africa and Britain and Australia, they call it biscuits? Is it your first time?
No, it's not first time.
Good, that's good.
That's a good point, actually, Danny. I think we'd say the same here. What is it about chocolate chip cookie? It like rolls off the tongue, and that style of biscuit is probably sometimes called cookie.
Looks like a frozen treat. We call these popsicles.
These are ice lollies. I know in Australia they say icy poles. I don't know what they say in America.
Yeah, we say icy poles here in Australia. The one.
Let me repeat that part from the beginning.
I know in Australia they say
popsicles. Popsicles. We call these popsicles.
These are ice lollies. I know in Australia they say icy poles. I don't know what they say in America.
Yeah, we say icy poles here in Australia. The ones with the stick on them. The ones that Jasmine was describing, the plastic tube that's full of liquid and frozen, we would call them lick sticks.
Yeah, I don't know why they have different ideas about lick sticks or ice pole or even ice lolly and popsicle, but we call it chudura of all the kinds of ice lolly, isn't it? What about the Arabic one? I think you call it ice cream generally.
بوظة نسميها بوظة أو آيس كريم. Yes.
In Kurdish, we call the other types of for mota. We have chulura and we have mota. Yeah, it has different shapes generally and also tastes. But in America, they call it popsicle, this type especially. In Africa, they call it ice lolly. And even many times I just used ice lolly. Whenever somebody asks me, what do we call this kind of ice cream? I said it's ice lolly. I haven't used like ice pole rather than ice lolly. So ice lolly, I think, is easier and the most common one. I don't know. I just heard many times about ice lolly rather than ice pole. But in Britain and Australia, they said they call it ice tall, right? Good.
Which has only just dawned on me how funny that is.
If they're more for fashion, I would say it's a sneaker. If they're more for being athletic, I would say a running shoe or tennis shoe.
What did we say?
Sneakers.
We call these tackies, but we also would call them running shoes.
Yeah, I guess that's the same here. I haven't heard of tackies before. That sounds like South African slang. Quite cool, I think. We don't really use sneakers very much at all. We would say runners or trainers would probably.
Yeah, mostly maybe you've heard trainers or runners before, or also sneakers as an American accent. So the picture is quite clear. In Kurdish we say kala. مثلا اگر مصطلحك جاك انه بخاص بكين بكالي سبور علي مثلا كالي رياضه يعني كالي رياضي بابلي اوكي سبورت كان ناتشكو اسا شيء بيجاوز هي عاده هي سبورت ابي وزني كم تربه ولا هنرو صحيبه هم بني هم لسري شوكا هوا هاتو شوكا تحدي شيء بزور خطر عاده باشتري لسر so we call it running shoes or even sport shoes. But generally for this kind of shoes, we call it trainer, isn't it? Tacky, like sneakers is very common. I heard many times about this one. I know it's quite clear. Runners also, and the trainers also, because mostly I'm using trainers. But tacky, it's really new for me. I haven't heard tackies before, which is can be used instead of sneakers or trainer. What about you? Have you heard before that tacky can be used as a trainer or sneakers?
I heard just about trainer.
What about sneakers?
No, I don't hear about it.
Yeah, in America, they call it sneakers. Actually, they will never use trainer. They always say sneakers or running shoes. Okay, but in Africa, like in African accent, they say tackies.
Tackies, yes.
Yeah, and in UK or let's say Britain and Australia, they said runners or trainers. But the one is the very common is nowadays it's a trainers. Okay, trainers. Good.
Be the most familiar.
This is a flip-flop.
This is not a thong, Australia. This is not a thong. A thong is something else. These are flip-flops or slip-slops.
I love slip slops. That's so cute. We don't use that word here. We use thongs. It's always very funny to the rest of the world.
Yeah, so let's have this one. What do you call it in Arabic?
شبشب.
What about the Kurdish? Shahata. What about the Kurdish one? We say? For all the kinds of types of this one, we say na'ad, isn't it?
Yes.
But in America, it's flip-flops. It's a kind of really a twist in your tongue, is a tongue twister, let's say, these words, because they use flip-flops and slip-slops or flip-flops in Africa. Both are correct. Okay, but I haven't heard flip-flops and slip-slops before, actually, to be honest, because I'm always concentrating in Australia and Britain and also American accent. The African one is not, but they have really funny word that can be used instead of these words. But in UK or in Australia, they call it thongs. Have you heard sandals before? Yeah, sandals?
Sandals is different.
But
not
yeah,
like this.
It has same shape, but there is a kind of another part at the back of the food, and then you can let's say you can close the last part also. It has this shape at front, but there is another part at the end, and you can close it. So they call this one sandal or summer sandals. Generally, we say summer sandals. Yeah. So it's a flip-flops in America. It's a flip-flops, same word, or slip-slops in Africa, but in Britain or in Australia it's quite different. It's a thongs. It's a thongs, okay?
We also called this one slippers.
Also slippers, but slippers is that kind of thongs that generally use inside the hotel. It's not that much. It's like fabric or different material. Yeah.
Okay.
But also it's very common. Whenever you say like slipper is this one, this say, all right?
Okay.
And also there is another shape for slipper. That's why the word is different. In English we say نعلي سرفرش. يعني مثلا نعلي ستانا ها أوي همي كاتنو أوي فرو خوري أوي بالي أوش هر سليبرة إما شهر واي بيالين ما بس ما إما لنا على سرفرش بالام سليبر شي بيوتري in English كنا على سرفرش كي خو معنا كاو وجاوز لك الأم شيء تشكم عادة بودرو بكاري وتلدرو يمالا ذات البكاري. Okay.
But plural, it's not thong, it's thongs, and it's a pair of shoes that you would wear to the beach.
This article of clothing that you wear in the wintertime is a sweater.
This is a jersey. We call it a jersey in South Africa, and it's woolen and big and warm and cozy.
Well, that's interesting. So we've got 3 different words. Australians, we call this a jumper. So we had sweater, jersey, and jumper.
So this is
jersey, and Australians.
And it's woolen and big and warm and cozy.
Well, that's interesting. So we've got 3 different words. Australians, we call this a jumper. So we had sweater, jersey, and jumper.
Yeah, what do we call generally this one? Which one is the most common English word for you? Isn't it a jumper or sweater?
بلوز صوفي.
Sweater أنا سمعاني فيه.
Yeah, sweater. So in America, they call it sweater as this kind of, men clothes. Also, we have same style for women, and then we call it same thing. It's a sweater. And jersey is like in African accent. They call this one, and jumper or maybe sometimes sweater. But the most common one in Britain and also in Australia is jumper. Okay, jumper is this, but sweater is in America. Jersey is in Africa. All right.
So this has 2 names. It could either be a trash can. It could also be a garbage can, either one.
This is a dustbin.
Oh, that's interesting. We call it a rubbish bin. So we've got.
This is very common because generally we say trash can or even I just use trash bin. I heard many times that can be used. You can say trash can or trash bin is same, correct? Or garbage can. Dustbin also is very common even here in the English schools. In let's say in a private school, they call it dustbin. It's like this picture, and rubbish bin or rubbish can be used. But in Britain and Australia, they call it rubbish bin. Okay, rubbish يعني زبالة. Okay, مالين خول. كبينك يتتنيشتي أبي بس سطلي خول. يعني أجر بس زبالة كخوي بخاص ببي أو اشتبه بس يعني أنتم مو تستخدمون الزبالة للربش good. إما قالين خول يعني خول وخاشاك يعني PC بس خولك زيادة بناو بعد يعني كمان الكردية. وين يا جماعة؟ بس مصطلحي خولك بتني هاجاك إنه يعني rubbish. باشا يعني dust. قالوا معناه خولية كأبي بالربش بين يعني dustbin يعني سطلي خول بالضبط يعني trash can أمان لأمريكا مصطلحي كان زور بكارين حتى بوقتي بيبسي كان بوقتي أو بوقتي خول يعني سطلي خولك يخو ما نهر ألين كان زيادة يعني garbage can garbage أتواني بلين بو حاويش بكاري هنري إما عادة شتك من هي garbage كي جورترا حجم جورترا تيالين حاوية ونية أو مصطلح مان هي I think you have same word in Arabic isn't it مسبدة حاوية باشا
حاوية
بساري خولش هر ألين garbage car okay بساري خولكش هر ألين garbage car بسايقي ساري خولكش ألين garbage driver okay ما هالمصطلح كان زول ليكون ألين garbage driver بسايقي سعري خولك بعضلين يعني garbage كان بو صلي خولك يعني garbage بس بو سعري خولك okay فيلمك هي I will share with you one day it's he is talking about a garbage driver it is about that time that there was a kind of conflict between African people and American people okay او کاتێک چینایەتیەکی زۆر هەبوویان با بڵێن مژنایەتێکی زۆر هەبوو لە بینی سویپێستەکان و ڕەشپێستەکان ئەو فیلمە لە هی ئەو سەردەمەیە دەرچوو فیلمێکی زۆر زۆر بەقوتیشە ناوی I don't know, I forgot the name. I have to think about it. It was a garbage driver or I don't know. I have to check and I will share it in your classroom later on. It's really interesting and really nice. Okay, so in America they call it trash can or garbage can. Dustbin is in Africa, and then rubbish bin or rubbish can in, let's say, only rubbish bin in UK or in Australia. Okay, but here mostly I just use trash can or trash bin or dustbin. These are very common here in our curriculum. I mean, inside private English schools, inside Suli or inside Iraq.
Got a few different names there.
So this one also has a lot of variations depending on where it is, what region you're in, if it's covered or not. So if this is in the south, where I'm from, we are most likely to call this area a porch. If it is something that wraps around your house, especially if it's in the front of your house, you might call it a front porch or a wraparound porch.
So the covered area outside of your house where you can sit and relax is the patio. Out on the patio.
Yeah, I think patio is reasonably common here in Australia. It's made of timber, and what Jasmine was describing as a wraparound porch or a front porch, we would probably call veranda here in Australia.
So
probably call veranda.
Yeah, so let's look at this one. In Arabic, you say kursi. صح? In Kurdish is the same thing. Like there is only one letter, which is a wu, like we say kursi. All right. For all the types of this one or the other types that is not covered, or the plastic one, or this kind of shapes nowadays is available everywhere. We call it hal kursi. But in America, they call it porch. Only this one, the single one is porch. But the one that is generally used at the front door or at the balconies, even she mentioned this one, they call it front porch. اوكي او نوع ام نوع كلر سمكات تاع الكرسي تاكي اتعديه بلاستيك كان هي بتايبه دقت كفرنا كرابه شو كفر كرابه شتي كي بي اوتري بتايبه لامريكا امان بي الين بورش ام نوعان بورشي بي اوتري نوع كتير من هي اقدر قدما لزروي في المكان لو انا ديني بتان لبيشي درجاي مدخل داي يعني حجمك جورتي هي وعاده تنشتوزم او حركه اكا او تولي الين فرونت بورش حتى او نوع تريج اما بي الين كرسي ال يعني قنفي ال عاده هو بكاري هن اس او شي بانش هاتو تقريبا شي بيكي ال دروس تاع مي بلاستيكا كدا انا ديكور كبو شي شغلي ال دروس تاع بتا بل بخيال بالكنيا بخاري هنري الين راوند بورش اوكي اما فرونت بورش مثلا يعني بس بورش يعني راوند بورش patio it's in the Africa. Same word, or veranda is the one that is really has L shape. You know what I mean? Yes.
البورش يعني مو شرفة، يعني شرفة البيت، يعني محل انه بيستريح فيه، يعني بيسموه رواق يعني.
انت قصد بالعربي مو؟
ايه. يعني محل واحد يرتاح فيه بياخد راحته، يعني هاي بورش.
ايه بالضبط. اوكي بس يعني هاي عندها هيك الشكل الصورة الواضح. خليه افرجيكم من البداية.
A variation
names there.
So
this one, can you see it now? Or even this one, it's a porch. Okay.
And also has a lot of variations depending on where it is, what region you're in, if it's covered or not. So if this is in the south, where I'm from, we are most likely to call this area a porch. If it is something that wraps around your house, especially if it's in the front of your house, you might call it a front porch or a wraparound porch.
So the covered area outside of your house where you can sit and relax is the patio. Out on the patio.
Yeah, I think patio is reasonably common here in Australia. It's made of timber, and what Jasmine was describing as a wraparound porch or a front porch, we would probably call veranda here in Australia.
Okay, so I think you've got the word
We would
veranda.
probably call veranda.
Yeah, veranda is, how can I tell you, is the one that has the L shape or round shape. You know what I mean?
حتى بالعربي نقول برندة.
Very good.
بلكونة يعني.
بلكونة بالضبط.
أو الشرفة اللي يستريحون بيها.
إما عادة هقلين كرسي يعني كرسي L بابلين L ذات البقاري هتا حملة كنفة حملة كرسي شهر قلين L shape يعني كرسي L يعني كنفة L. Okay.
Here in Australia.
So this looks like an eraser.
This is a silly one. I don't know why we call this a rubber. It's made of rubber. An eraser, we say eraser maybe sometimes, but these are rubbers.
You laugh, Danny. That's what we call them as well. We call these rubbers.
Yeah, this one is very common. It's a school stuffs is very common as razor or rubber, but I think generally we call it eraser inside English private school in Iraq. They teach even the students as a razor from the beginning, and some of the teachers they call it rubber, so the students will learn that word from this one. But it's better to say, like, it's better to teach your kids both ways, because in some kind of places they call it, do you need a razor or I need a razor? I mean, it depends on the schools. Some of them they call it rubber. Okay, يعني مساحة إما قليل مساحة بالضبط إما فهم بكردي
وبالعراقي مساحة
راستا إماش بكردي بيالين لاسيك يعني لاسيك يخد كجانا يعني هل لاسيك بكاري عادة كلاسيكا كزور كمتر لما مكتبات بكاري كو أدواتي قرطاسي وانا لين لاسيك okay it's a razor يعني rubber كام يعني بكاري يعني you can use it like there is a kind of a similarity in Britain, Australia, and South Africa, which is a rubber, but only in America they call it razor.
I guess it's a funny name, but you rub out your pencil. We use a razor, but it seems quite formal, much more casual and relaxed, and much more common to use rubber.
These are markers. Yep, just markers.
These are cokies.
Ah, cokies. That's interesting. I think it's just as interesting as what we refer to them as in Australia. They're texters.
I would call this
as in Australia, they're texters.
Yeah, it is very common here also. We call them markers, isn't it? Even
yes,
in English
markers.
school, we call them markers. But cookie, cookies, it's the African accent one. They call this one. But texters is in the Australia. Also in UK, they call them markers. But in Australia, it's texters. Okay. Even here, we call them markers. But these other words, just to be more clear for you, in different accent, is the same picture and same word.
I would call this a comforter. So a comforter is a big fluffy thing that goes on top of your bed.
Oh, I'm so glad that you put this one in because it's not a doona. I know that they say that in Australia. That's a crazy word. It's a duvet.
Yeah, duvet.
How is duvet any more or less crazy than doona, Danny?
Do you remember that it was, I think in chapter 2, you've got a picture, it was about the bedroom. And then I've shown you this duvet, isn't it?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, but in America, they call it comforter. That little R here is a little bit silent. It's a no comforter, it's a comforter. but it's a Duna in Australia and also Duvia in Britain, because I heard many times, yeah, I'm sure it's a Duvia. There is a word comfortable, which is بتجي معنا مثلا شيء مرتاح، مكان مرتاح، كرسي ولا قنفة ولا أي شيء ثاني مثلا. Okay, comfortable. But comforter is this one. Okay, like Duvia or Dona in Australia. All right, إما هالقلين سرجيكا يعني يا هالقلين سرجيكا مثلا اشتكا يعني شرشفيكا يعني بتانيكا عادة بكاري لسرجيكا
هيك مريح بيتن يعني.
اشتكي مريح ولوكي عادة وقافية توظف شوك وأميل رسمك شاء بيلن إما عادة بتاني بكاري هينين سرجيكا بكاري هينين لفة بكاري هينين همهم مصطلحات أنا هرفير أبو أم رسمك. But in English they use these 3 different words. But the most common one I think is Duvia, isn't it? For you too, because you've learned these vocabulary in chapter, I think it was 1 or 2 from the beginning of your course. And I also showed you by picture. We call it a Duvia.
It's a doona. I hope that you enjoyed today's lesson as much as I did and learned something new. Listening to different types of English is always fascinating, and it always has this lovely sense of rivalry or competition between which type of English is the right English. And I'm very much looking forward to the next video that's coming up on English. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, you give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and come back and see me in the next lesson. Bye for now.
All right. Okay, so did you enjoy that video? Was it nice?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it's nice.
Yeah, so Ashmaz, as you can please try to watch such a kind of videos, because you're going to learn many vocabulary in different accents, and then through watching such a kind of videos and different people, different accent, you will never forget such a kind of vocabulary. Right? These are the very simple words, and they are really common. But I would like to share it with you, and then you can check some kind of other word that related to the same idea, like different accents, like British accent, American accent. There are a million videos in YouTube. You can watch them, isn't it? Especially about what are the difference between American accent and British accent. The most common one are these videos, especially in our country, but nowadays Australian and Australian accent is very common because they are really connected with the British accent. That's why there are some videos that are related to these 3 different accents together. I hope you enjoyed that video, and it was really interesting, and there was some kind of words, even it was really new for me, especially the African accent one, South African accent. Thanks for joining.
Thanks a lot. It was so exciting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, actually it was.
مس لينا الأسبوع الجاي رح ناخذ نفس الطريقة، يعني الكلمات المختلفة باللهجات.
باليوم الخميس يعني قبل الامتحان، إذا أنتم ما عندكم أي سؤال، إذا أنتم تحتاجون أي مراجعة، أنا راح أجيب شيء فيديو مثل هاي كل أسبوع. أوكي، بس يعني بالأيام مثلا الجاي، مثلا بالأحد لحد الأربعاء ما عندنا وقت كثير مشان نتفرج طبعا هدول فيديو. يعني أنا راح أجيب فيديو تبع الموضوع الخاص والأساسي، بس يعني هيك شيء مثل هاي الفيديو لازم نحن نتفرجه باليوم الخميس، إذا ما أنتم ما تريدون شيء مراجعة أو هيك شيء. أوكي.
لا قصدي الأسبوع الجاي كمان رح، يعني شو رح ناخذ الصوتيات نكمل الأصوات؟
رح كمل الصوت مثل ال diphthong and L, like let's say silent letters. We have some word that there are some letters that is silent، يعني نحن ما رح نلفظهم بهاي الكلمات من ال A حتى Z. أكو كلمات نحن ما رح نلفظ مثلا شوية حرف من هدول الكلمات. وبعدين رح كمل المنهج تبعكم. في شيء بسيط موجود بالشابتر الأخير، وبعدين رح كمل بالمقطع reading, dictation, listening, and then speaking. Every day we will speak together. I will, as much as I can, I have to try and push you to speak with me in English. And then we will try to have such a kind of conversation together or presentation, let's say. Okay? مثل هدول اللي انتوا سويتوها بالمحاضرة الكمبيوتر افواجية.
ماما صاقع بس بدي السي في كان وتشوف معناك يعني السي في شو
كان
المشكلة
أول إشي زور بسيطة بيك بسميه أوكي زور أسانة تمبلتي زور باش وجوانو فري هي لجوجل إس أتواني لجوجل تشكي مثلا بنوسا free template free CV template أو شغلو شو نمونيك شتات لسري كتشون طريقة كيتو CV كتو أي داونلود كيتو فايل أو أنا شو مية خمين خمتان بس شو
إن شاء الله دس خوش بمصاقع.
So as you remember at 1 p.m. you have exam today. Is about 20 marks and it's about 20 multiple choices. Directly after submission, you're going to see your scores, okay? So good luck for you all. I'm sorry that I just delayed your exam for that time because we cannot prepare two different questions for morning group and evening group. It's a little bit difficult for us, you know? And because we've seen that with Ms. Huda, that there are some participants, they are not that much clever, but they're always getting high marks in the exam. Which is, we said maybe the morning group, there are some friends of them, they help them, they may take pictures of the question and they send it to the evening group. That's why they are always getting high marks. So it's better to you all together do your exam at one time, all right? أتمنى لكم يوم سعيد. راح أشوفكم إن شاء الله باليوم الأحد. طبعا ساعة واحدة. أنا راح شو اسمه راح أنزل لكم اللينك ثاني للميتين ويا المجموعة المسائي بالكلاس تبعكم مشان إذا عندكم شيء سؤال تكونين موجودين بالمحاضرة أوكي؟ لا ساعدك اللينك كي تازم ميتين تنبو دارم لكلاس روما هرتا اللي بحازي تبرسالي كيها بصوت مشكلة ريا أتوانا جويني ميتينكا لبري لا أثناء درزي إيه ورانا امتحانا كان أتوانا جويني درزي أواني شبري أوكي؟
Okay, Miss.
Okay, so have a great day.
Yeah,
See you
Malot.
on Sunday and I wish you have a great weekend. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.